Just drop that ass, bitch. It's Open Micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that Open Micers logo in your mouth. Jason with his bald ass head. Jacob looking in bed. It's Open Micers that heard what I said. Drop that ass, Open Micers in the house. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, Open Micers in the house. Open Micers in the house, Open Micers is a mouse. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, Open Micers in the house. The mic is now open.
That's right, the mic is now open. And you know, Jacob, that theme song just gets worse every because we've had a month of females on the show now, and it just gets worse every time. It just keeps getting worse.
I imagine so. Okay.
My name is Jason Robbins.
My name is Jacob Craig. I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, couldn't write a better theme song myself. No, my new favorite thing is watching Jason cringe in the little screen while our theme song plays for yet another unsuspecting guest. I'm starting to feel bad about it, honestly, a little bit at this point. We should just go back to the old one. But we are joined here today by a very fantastic comedian guest. She is a nationally touring headliner, touring clubs all over the world. And you know her from Dry Bar Comedy. You know her from Sirius XM. You know her from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. She's coming to our area at quite a few places. You can see her in North Carolina, in Tennessee, in Georgia. And for tickets to any of those, if you are in the area, go to JennaKimJones.com. It is the one and only Jenna Kim Jones. How are you?
So good. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. And thank you for not logging off.
I stayed strong. I thought, oh boy. Okay, Here we go. You got the clean comedian on tonight.
Yeah. No, I thought about that too. When because we set this up, I think over a month ago now, and I thought about it as the date crawled closer. I was like, I wonder what her take on this theme song's gonna be.
I don't judge. Okay, I'm just here to be friendly, talk about comedy, have a good time.
We are too. I mean, we're just gonna have a theme song that has the P word riddled in it while we talk about comedy.
I just keep wondering.
No, I'm getting timid. I said the P word like the word hadn't already been exposed on the podcast several times.
Yeah, I just keep wondering how many people we've lost as listeners just because of that theme song. Like, they just couldn't get through the theme song. Like, how many people have we lost because of it? I just wish I knew.
Versus how many we've gained.
Well, yeah. But are those really the people we want here for our listenership?
Yes. Hey, if you have ears, then boy, are you welcome at the OpenMicersPodcast.
But I did want to say, Jenna, I listened to your newest special this week. It was 7 months ago that it was put out. It's She's So Brave. Listen to it and really quite enjoyed it because Jacob schools me on newer comedians. That's why we love this show so much, because I'm an old man and I quit listening to anything pop culture after like 2002. So I need Jacob in my life because I'm 47 and he's like 12. So he keeps me updated.
You're not an old man. 47.
He's
Come
so
on.
old.
Dude, you know what happened earlier today? I was looking in the mirror, and Jacob, you haven't gotten this yet, but as you become an older man, you look in the mirror and you're like, man, who is this old fart looking back at me? Like, why am I looking like George Lucas lately? And then I realized where I trim, like when I shave my neck, it kept getting lower and lower. And I had to trim it. Yeah, I had to just trim it back up to the the jawline, because I was like, man, if I keep going, I'm gonna have a jawline like down by my nipples.
No, aging is horrible. It's like I used to look at, you look at a picture of yourself and you're like, oh, I look so terrible. And then like a few years go by and you see that same picture again. You're like, oh, I looked pretty okay. Oh, this is not good. I remember when I thought I didn't look good in this photo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do the same thing. I'll see pictures of me from when I was like in my 20s. And I thought I was just a troll of a human being, but I look back at those pictures and I'm like, who is that handsome, roguish man look in that picture?
You really face wasted those years.
Back when I had hair, like it was awesome. Like, who is that handsome man?
Yeah,
you're
me
in that
personally, I'm
time now,
excited-
Jacob. So you're gonna look back.
Enjoy.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to die in my prime. That's gonna be my plan. I'm not gonna age. I'm gonna die before I'm 30.
There you go. Oh no, you're under 30? Oh no.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm under there. I'm 24.
Physically, he's older than me. Is what it boils down
Yeah.
to.
Physically, I have the back issues of a 47-year-old man. And the pancreas of a dead person. I don't have a pancreas. But,
Oh shoot. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
And Jenny, in your special, you touch on like when you were pregnant and stuff like that, going to the doctors, and just yesterday, I had to go do my office visit because I have to have a colonoscopy in September. And here's the thing, I have insurance. I went to the what do they call it? Not your regular doctor, but specialist. So I go in there. And they're like, "Oh, it's $100 copay to see a specialist." I'm like, $100, Jesus! So I had to drop that in there. I literally walked in, and I'm sitting in the little office there in the back, and he comes in. He's like, "Hi, Mr. Robbins." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hi, I'm Mr. Butt Doctor." And I'm like, "How you doing, Mr. Butt Doctor?" And he says, "So you're here for colonoscopy, huh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he like grabs me by the face, and he's like digging in my eyes, like looking at me, and then he's like grabbing my glands here. And
Wait, did he think that like you had already taken your pants down? Was he confused?
I don't know, but then he literally
butt
like
face.
grabbed my stomach fat and like jiggled it. And he goes, "Well, I have some appointments open in September. We'll get you in there, and I'll send in my secretary." And he walks out. I'm like, this is what I paid $100 for? Like, have my stomach fat jiggled?
That wasn't even the doctor, dude. You're gonna be on the 10 o'clock news.
Gosh.
Think he was the
That was-
janitor.
Yeah, this is some creep that wanted to jiggle your belly.
It was so weird. Have either of you had your belly fat jiggled by a doctor before?
Well, after you have a baby, they come in and they just push on your belly really, really hard.
Oh,
To just get back in there. You're done having a baby, and it hurts so bad, and you think the indignities. I just did something amazing, and you're in here just trying to. I don't even know what. It's horrible. So I have, in a sense, yes, had that happen to me.
Did you pay $100 for it though?
she paid way more.
I had a baby.
She paid like
Physically
$6,000.
Yeah. I felt so violated. I was like, oh, I feel
it's
weird
terrible.
now.
It's so terrible, and it's even worse when you have kids, when you have a baby, because there's no modesty. Like, the doctors don't even care. They just come in, they'll like rip the sheet off of you to look at your body to see if you're like, yep, you're having a baby, and you're like, okay, like, can we just ask first or something? I don't know, please. So the doctor, you're welcome. Welcome to this world. You're
as
entering.
a woman, do you prefer an OBGYN or a gynecologist to be a male or female? Like, which do you feel more comfortable? Male?
Female.
Oh, female. I was going to say why.
No, I prefer female, but once in a while I've had a male doctor, but I prefer it to be a woman, because then we just all share in the indignity, like, okay, well, we're doing this together.
Yeah. I think that maybe I think women just make better doctors, because I think everyone should prefer women doctors.
Really?
I want a woman doctor doing anything to me. I don't want some dude like jiggling my belly fat, I want some lady to come jiggle me.
That's what happens. Yeah.
I'll come jiggle your belly fat next time I see you, Jacob.
I just
be like,
explicitly
what's up,
said
buddy?
I don't want that.
No.
You're just gonna motorboat me and be like, "Yep, you're having a baby."
Well, as big as you are, I think you would have had it by now. I think there, Jacob.
Well, I'm logging off the Zoom. You guys have a good night.
Hey, I'm just getting you back for all the zingers you've gotten on me the past few months.
You mean ever since I met you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man, Jenna, I do want to have a conversation with you here because you're a clean comic. You've got the Dry Bar special. At what point did you decide that you were gonna be a clean comic, or is that just kind of like your personality and what comes naturally, or was it more of like a measured business move to sort of,
Oh,
do
yeah.
this thing clean?
Good question. It's really who I am. Like I don't know how to swear. Like I think I do it wrong. Like it doesn't sound good. It's like icky. Like it's if I swear, people are like, ugh, don't ever say that again. Like
Yeah.
it's too, I don't know. It doesn't work. So I just have uh never I don't know. It just doesn't, like I said, it's like so icky coming from me and I say it wrong. I'm like, I never get the words right. It's awkward. I think I never grew up, like my parents didn't really curse ever. I didn't grow up hearing it. And then when I hear it, it doesn't, you know how sometimes things like they stick or they just
Mm.
bounce right off me. I don't know. It does not come naturally to me at all. And so it's just sort of who I am. It's been this way my whole life. And, when I started doing comedy, I really loved like Jim Gaffigan and Brian Regan. Those are probably the two,
Mhm.
and Jerry Seinfeld. Like I listened to those guys a lot and went like, "Oh, I love this comedy. This feels good to me." And so that's kind of why I part of the reason why.
I think
Right.
if
Well,
you can't even get the words right, that would actually be a pretty funny special. If for just
yeah, that'd be a good
one
bit.
special you just go like super blue and just like say
Just
all
like
kind of
messed up
weird.
so bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would watch it.
we should teach you. Like we should teach you how to say swear words properly. We're kind of the perfect people.
You would hate it. You'd say this is the we've done something terrible. Look,
Uh,
you couldn't even say the word a few minutes ago in front of me. Okay.
no, you're right. You're right. I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it right. Yeah, and I had that question in my head because I think a lot of people, because you have the rare instances like Jim Gaffigan you mentioned. I think that's genuinely who Jim Gaffigan is as a person, like who he brings on stage.
Yes.
But then you have Jerry Seinfeld, who he's admitted that like it's a business move. From day one, I don't have to unlearn saying curse words for a late night set.
Right.
I'm crafting my material to go be on TV, to do every room, because and have you found, as touring as a clean comedian, that it's opened up more venues because clean comedians can work in dirty rooms, but dirty comedians can't work in clean rooms?
Yes, I found that there's no stress for me ever.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to worry about it. I have had some jobs come to me because I'm a clean comedian.
Mm-hmm.
My dry bar special, I was like one of the first. I was in season one, like long ago when they were starting because they were like looking for clean comedians. So I've
Right.
had opportunities come to me because of it, which has been really great. I've had albums featured on Sirius XM because they're specifically looking for more clean content. So I've had a lot of great opportunities because of it. So that's just been great. But it is naturally, I would say, people have referenced me as a female Jim Gaffigan. So I think that is funny that you say that because I do think it is sort of who he is as well.
You need to
Yeah,
be
and
about
I see
three
that.
shades whiter.
I know I'm really pale. I know.
Yeah,
But
and I see a lot of Jim Gaffigan in your performances as well.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see the influence without, don't take that as an insult.
No, I'm
But
not.
But when you grew
Jason, I
up,
cut you off.
did you grow up like in a super religious family or anything like that, or was it just kind of like just like my family? Like we weren't really super religious or anything. I mean, my parents, like I had a mom who was Catholic, dad who was Methodist, and I never even heard my parents say a curse word till I was like almost 30. So,
Right.
and when I didn't really curse as a kid, but like as soon as I got to like out into the world, I'm just like F bombing every other word. I don't know if I
I
just saved them up or what.
I don't know. Well, I did grow up religious. I'm still religious. Go to church every Sunday. So that's obviously a huge influence um, in my life.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm an adult, so I guess I just chose to do it this way. I mean, it's it's just who I am. Yeah.
Right. And no one's ever gotten offended because someone didn't say a curse word too. So I feel like
Yeah.
you're playing the game right, Jenna. We're all playing
Oh,
it wrong.
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long journey, and here I am, just still, we're all just still trying to figure it out, I feel like.
Yeah. What are you talking about? You're on the Open Micers podcast. You've made it.
I know. Trust me. Oh,
Hey, we're like a springboard for fame. Like we've had different comedians on, and then like a week later, something will happen, and then they're just like huge.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, you guys. Thank you.
We're like
Maybe next week you'll get a beer thrown at you.
Yeah.
and become a superstar.
That's all I need. Just one bottle chucked at my head.
We're the
Yeah,
Good
we
Luck
had
Chuck
on,
of podcasts. Just change the name to Good Luck Chuck.
Right. Yeah, we had Ariel Elias on the week before she got that high noon chunked at her head.
Stop. That's
Yeah. And so a week later, the episode blows up, and we're like, score. We got a little bit of kickback on that. Thanks, Ariel.
Yeah, there you go. That's hilarious.
And do you find that, like, your joke writing kind of has to be bulletproof as a clean comic, because not only can you not describe it with, using the F-bomb as like an adjective or, that sort of thing as emphasis, but then also, like, I feel like at least every like bad, open micer, at least dude starting out, has like a sex joke, a porn joke, a dick joke, a joke about drugs. And, that's like your first 5 minutes is all these dirty subjects. Do you feel like you have to be, a little bit of a higher standard almost working clean?
Yeah, I think that the expectations can be higher, maybe. Well, I don't know. I think it depends. It totally depends. When I was doing a lot of open mics, it was hard because so much of the comedy, was edgy or blue.
Yeah.
And then I would get up there and be like, hey, let's make jokes about Cheetos. And then everyone's like, what's happening? That's how it felt when I started. As I got a little better at joke writing, it became less of a problem. But I do think it's always tricky. And even now, I get like a little nervous. Like if I'm doing a show with a bunch of other people, I get worried like, oh, what if I'm like too squeaky clean and everybody thinks I'm boring after they've heard so much other stuff? Do you know? I still get insecure about it sometimes. But I do think I do have to work harder. I don't know if this is, I think being a clean comedian and a female comedian, there's like even more of like this pressure, because like, I'll have clips that do well on social media and like I will get all this praise, but then there's still those guys that just have to come on and go like, still not funny because you're a girl. And you're like, oh my goodness.
Jacob, what have I told you about that? Stop doing that.
Jacob, get over it.
That's why I bucked her.
Get over it, man.
Yeah,
so I feel like sometimes it's not even so much the clean thing, it's more about the female thing almost. And that
But I feel like funny's funny whether or not you're dropping F-bombs or not, but do you find it harder to just find material because you're not doing like, raunchy sex jokes and things like that? Or is it harder to find the funny in just everyday things?
No, there's like once in a while how I like see how a curse can really be funny, like, or something raunchy. I go like, that's pretty funny. Like, I can't deny that that's a funny joke, right? But for me, I haven't, like, I just keep life experience just keeps giving me more to work with, and my career has been really weird. Like it started out in New York City. I'm doing open mics, getting shows there. And now I have 4 kids and I'm married and I live in Georgia, and my life has taken all these crazy turns. And so my career has always been a little different anyway. So I feel like, oh well, I'm just doing it differently here.
Plus, you guys have joke generators too. Like me and Jacob were talking the other night with his daughter. you know, Jacob,
Oh,
you had that bit you were going to do about your daughter's eating habits. I'm like, man, it's like you just have little joke generators running around.
Yeah, Jenna's got 4 of them. She's 4
Yeah.
times funnier than me.
I don't know. I'm kind of brain dead by now, gotta be honest. I'm just like, I gotta like get back into because I had a baby last year. He's 10, she's 10, I'm so out of it. See, she's 10 months old. So I feel like in the last couple months, I'm just now coming out of the baby fog. Oh yeah, I know how to do this. This is great.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, gosh, doing that. And how old are each of your kids having to do that 4 times? Are they at least spaced apart a little bit?
Little bit. I have we call them the older kids and the little kids because I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and then I have a 2-year-old and a 10-month-old.
God bless you.
Thank you. It's chaos. Let me just tell you, this fourth kid has really knocked us over. We're done. We're not having any more kids. I can say that publicly. Take it, world, run with it. I'm not having any more kids. Okay.
I was just about to say, you really are trying to be the female Jim Gaffigan.
I know.
Right.
I know. I've really failed him. I only have 4. Okay. I had to have them myself. Okay. I didn't get to just, be the sidekick.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to post a clip of this under baby number 5's announcement.
There you go. She's having, oh.
Yeah, that age gap that's the same age gap as like my brother's kids and my kid combined because he has an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, I have a 4-year-old, and then he has a 2-year-old. So when we get all 4 of them together to play, just the mass chaos that ensues. I can't imagine that all the time.
It's chaos. There have been times just the other day, I looked at all of them. Well, at the 10-month-old, I can't really tell her what to do as much, but each kid I banned to a different room. I said, you can't be in the same room right now. I can't do it. You're in this room. You go over to that room. You go over there. And we all had to just be apart. It was great. It was a wonderful 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back on the show. And your daughter's 10 months old. So roughly 12 years and 2 months from now, when they're all 4 of them teenagers at the same time, and see how you're holding up at that point.
I know. I have all these friends who have older kids, and they're like, oh, you think it's bad now. You just wait. I'm like, okay, everybody calm down. Stop it. Let me just get through this phase first.
Right. Did your kids go through like the 3-nager phase that mine's currently in now, where she's 3 or 4, but she thinks that she can just go to her room and slam the door because we didn't want to let her have whatever.
Yeah, has she learned to roll her eyes yet?
Oh yeah, she was born knowing how to roll her eyes.
And you just think like, how is this just innate? You just know how to be a mean girl right now? Yeah, it's amazing.
She had to learn it from her mama. I blame her. It's her fault. It's learned behavior. But I miss it too because she's so innately like my personality. At least she was for like the first 3 years because she was just running around hamming it up all the time, kind of being like, "Hey, look at me! I'm about to do something funny." And now she's mean. She's little and cute, but she's mean.
I don't get to experience this little kid because every time I'm over at Jacob's house, she turns into like the shy little, doesn't want to say anything and hides behind mom's leg. Like I don't get to see the chaos that happens.
And you need to come over more.
Yeah, well, live closer.
Yeah, I can't handle it. It's too much sometimes. Too much sometimes, man. Yeah, doing that 4 times. Jason, you've had 0 kids. Do you think that at this point in your life you could deal with any amount of children?
No. Not at all. I am a 47-year-old man who decided to not have kids, and I am so set in the way I like to live life. There's no way I could introduce a smaller version of me and be like, yeah, you can share my toys. Like, no, no, not at all.
Yeah, I'll stay up all night taking care of you. I'll cut your grapes in half. I'll do all this crazy stuff. Ugh.
Cause see, I'm not a famous rich actor or anything to where I can like hire nannies or anything if I had kids. So no, I'm too old.
I don't know. John Stamos had his first when he was what, in his 50s.
Yeah,
Andy
but
Cohen, they're all having kids when they're didn't Alec Baldwin's still having kids.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. They're all rich. They can afford nannies. They don't. I guarantee you, John Stamos is not up at 2 o'clock in the morning, feeding it, like bottle feeding his kids. He's not
He's
doing
got to
that.
get his beauty sleep, dude.
Yeah, that man, he would age 30 years overnight if he had to do
I know.
that.
Can you imagine? What was funny is during the pandemic when all the celebrities were forced to stay home and Justin Timberlake, I think, did an interview where he was like, whoa, kids, am I right? You're just whoa. I'm like, welcome to the rest of the world's lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids. They're a lot of work. It's welcome.
Yeah, no
For the most
publicists
part.
hanging out at the house helping out with everything. No,
Yeah.
you got to do it now.
Exactly.
And I don't think that you could keep the kid alive, Jason, because I had a very steep learning curve. And I'm very lucky that our daughter had to wear a helmet for the first 2 years of her life for her head shape. Because my God, did I drop her? I just dropped her so many times.
That's
Having
awful.
flashes of that. That's why she's got so much attitude. She's like, I remember, Dad.
Yeah, I remember when you banged my head against the wall on accident.
Every kid falls and hits their head when they're a baby, and it's the worst because you feel so bad as a parent. And you just have to go like, this is it. It
Yeah.
happened. I gotta move on. I don't know. Sorry, kiddo.
Dude,
Good luck.
I accidentally kicked the shit out of my cat at least 4 times a day. I can imagine if I had a kid running around
It's
here.
different, dude. You can't do that to a kid. You'll get them taken away.
I know.
And you mentioned a funny thing with the grapes too. Like there's little stuff that I did not realize. Like the first time I ever gave my daughter grapes, my fiance came in and just started freaking out. I was like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "You can't give the kid whole grapes." What do you mean I have to cut up the grapes? They're grapes.
Grapes haunt me. Every time I buy them, I think, oh, I'm gonna have to cut them all up because you can't just give your kid a whole grape. One, they'll choke. Two, another mom will see you give them a whole grape. They're gonna judge you. They're gonna judge you so hard if you don't cut that grape up. I have friends who were peeling their kids' grapes, and that's just insane.
my
Okay,
gosh.
I won't do that. But I tell you, I sometimes think like, when do you stop worrying about your child choking on a grape? Is it like college? Like what point do I know they're going to be okay?
I
It's when you
choke
reach
on
the
grapes
impasse
now.
of- Yeah, right. It's when you reach the impasse of just like being too tired to care anymore.
Right.
It's being
Everybody
you know
just-
what?
Try to take a bite out of it first. I don't know. Get over it. Get out of here.
Wasn't
Yeah.
there a statistic not too long ago where like the number one choking hazard for children was hot dogs?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's always been hot dogs, dude.
I
They're
cut
undefeated.
the hot dog in half and then cut it into pieces because my kids don't like hot dog buns anyway. They just want to eat the hot dog.
Mm.
So I cut it in half and then I cut it again. Oh,
Yeah. I feel like there's a funny bit there about like cutting your kids' food up, like skinning grapes and cutting hot dogs up like you're pretending you're in a Saw movie
Yeah,
whenever they push you too far.
I would not have the patience for that. Like I've become set in who I am as an adult. Like I don't have anyone to take care of except I keep myself alive, and I can barely do that.
you seem very well. You seem like you're doing a great job.
He's
I mean,
not.
I take care of Jacob. He's pretty much like the son I never had.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll ask him for advice sometimes on like the order to watch Star Wars movies in, I guess. Like that's the only valuable knowledge he has.
But we're at the halfway point, and now is where we're going to ask you about your very first time, the very first time you ever did open mic comedy.
Oh, open mic, like a true open mic, or just the first time I ever did comedy.
Oh,
Just,
well,
just tell us about the first time you ever did comedy,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Okay, so, oh, it's so bad. Okay, so I wanted to get into comedy. At the time, I was working at the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Um, I was just a peon there, and making my way, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And I figured out that I wanted to try stand-up, which was something I had never imagined doing ever in my life. But a ton of the writers and the correspondents, they all did stand-up. And because when I started there, it was like the era of John Oliver, Wyatt Cenac, all these guys who were doing stand-up. And I would go watch them do stand-up. My boss, he did stand-up. Rory Albanese, like all these awesome stand-ups that are so funny. And so I would go watch them and I'd be like, wait a minute, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Because I wanted to perform, but I didn't fit in with the theater kids because I was like, you're goofy and it's weird and I'm not an extrovert at all and I can't do this. Like pretending we have accents is not fun for me. So I I decided that I wanted to try stand-up because I'm like, this is great. I get to be in control. I get to write it. I get to get that performance that I really want to do. So I told my boss at the time that I wanted to do stand-up, and he was like, yes, you should totally do it. That would be awesome. So I started writing jokes on my own, and like I could not get the nerve to just sign up for the open mic because I was too nervous. I was just straight up like, I'm going to puke my guts out if I go do this. Like I can't, I'm so scared to go do stand up. But then I was at a show. There was a show that used to be run. There was a club in Manhattan called Comics, Comix. It was like a great stand up club. Anyway, I used to go watch stand up there a lot. And The Daily Show had a monthly show there called The Daily Show and Friends, where anybody who wanted to could come, we had all kinds of amazing comics on that show, but any of the Daily Show people could go do a set. They would invite comedy friends, whatever. Anyway, I went to go watch the show and I'm backstage saying hi to everybody. And my boss is like, you have to get on stage tonight. And I was like, no, that's a bad idea. No. And he's like, yeah, you do. You're doing 5 minutes. I don't care. I don't care. You have to do it. You have to do it. So I did 5 minutes on a show with like some of the best stand-up ever. And my horrible 5 minutes, that was not good. Okay. I can assure you it was not good. I barely remember any of it. I think I made a joke about being blonde at one point, but I truly feel like I walked on that stage, blacked out for 5 minutes, came back off stage, and he was like, you did it. He's like, you did it. Okay, it's done. Now you have to go do stand-up. I'm like, oh. And that was when I realized, oh, even though I bombed so hard and had the most embarrassing 5 minute set ever, I still wanted to try again. And I thought, I think that means I have to keep going. So then I started doing open mics after that.
Did you have a 5 minute set ready to go when you did that
I
night?
I had a few jokes ready. Yes. Because I will admit I had tried a few of them at like a church event. Don't do that. Okay. Don't go try to do jokes at a church event. It's the worst thing that like, luckily I just panned it like put it off. Like I was like, just saying a few jokes and then nobody knew I was like doing comedy. So thank goodness. Don't do that. So I had been writing and I had told my boss, like, I've been writing, so he knew that I wanted to do it. So when he pushed me on stage, it was so scary.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I think that's probably my worst nightmare. Like even now in stand up, like if someone called me and was like, hey, I need you to come do a 5 minute set on a show with John Oliver and, all these other fantastic stand ups that are all going to make you seem like an absolute fool in the thing that you want to do with your life.
Yes. It was so scary. But again, my boss was like, just adamant. He's like, who cares how it went? You did it. And I was like, I guess you're right. Like nobody knows the set happened. It's not recorded. Thank goodness. And like it happened and I did it. And it did. I mean, it did not take my fear away. Every open mic, like 24 hours before, I would start to go like, you should just stop. Don't do this. This is so horrible. You're going to do so bad. And I would get so scared, but I would just push and force myself through that because there was just some sick, twisted desire to get on that stage anyway.
We all have that.
I know
Oh,
what's
yeah.
wrong with us.
And that's the hardest part of being a comic is to forcing yourself to get on stage. Because I don't know about y'all, but being at home's great. Like I love being at home. So leaving your home to go do stand up, it's like you could just very well not do it. You have every opportunity to not do it.
Especially when you're starting, like no one's asking us to do this. Like
Right.
no
They're
one
asking us not to do it.
I know that is like I know my parents are like, what? You just did 4 years of college to do what?
Yeah.
Like no one's excited about it. So it's truly insane that we continue and pursue it. But that was what I wanted to do. And open mics, they were still hard after that. It was hard for a while, and then slowly things started to get a little better.
But also,
Yeah.
too, just absolutely being thrown to the wolves like that for your very first time is like there's nothing that you could possibly do that would be scarier than that.
That is true. That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way at the time, but that is a good point.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I was on that show and they made me get up there and do, I probably would black out for 5 minutes too. Like, there's no way I like some kind of primal like fight or flight would just shut my
Yes.
brain off at that point.
Yeah. That's what it felt like. Because even now when I think back, I'll be like, what did you say? What did you say? And I truly don't remember, except for possibly making fun of my hair color, but I don't know in what way or if there was a punchline. Like, oh, so embarrassing, you guys. Oh.
You just stood. You probably like just stood there crying for 5 minutes and don't remember it. They're like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. Everyone thought it was performance art.
Yeah.
Things up for the show, I guess.
And this might be a little off of the line of questioning or whatever, but as stand up gets more saturated, like because now it's at a point where my gosh, like everybody is doing it. Everyone can, because they've cracked the code. Like regular people have cracked the code of like, oh, I can just go to an open mic for 5 minutes and just get up there and talk or say something racist and then go home. Like that's pretty much what comedy's developed into because of Kill Tony or whatever. But do you think now, because of that saturation, is it going to get to a point where someone tells their parents like, hey, I'm going to pursue stand up, and just like if somebody 5 years ago or 10 years ago said, hey, I'm going to have a job playing video games, where it's like, oh, well, now that we understand that you can actually make a ton of money if you do it the right way, like, do you think more people are going to be supported by their parents and it's seen as like, an actual like lucrative career?
Maybe. I didn't think of that. And as parents like from your generation get older, maybe. I think I don't know. I don't know. I guess it would depend on how much of the hustle, because you still have to have so much hustle. Whether or not, comedy is more mainstream now, I guess, but you still have to work so dang hard.
Yeah,
Right.
but also too with that point you made, Jacob, I feel like we're in another era of like what it was back in the late '80s when there was the comedy boom, like where everybody was doing stand-up comedy and everybody had a HBO special, and there was all the comedy shows on TV, like Evening at the Improv and Caroline's Comedy Hour, and then Comedy Central started, and it was so saturated with comedians, and then it just sort of imploded, and it was like all the best were left standing, and that's kind of who went forward. I feel like we're kind of in that now, sort of, maybe.
I can see that, especially because of social media, right? You can have a
Yeah.
bunch of people pop up and have their moment, but then in the long run, it's like, who's going to sell tickets forever?
Yeah.
Who's going to continue to create content that people actually want to see, that isn't just that like hit,
Right.
because that's really the problem now, is that entertainment is cheap because of social media, right? It's like we can watch like 100 clips in a night. You might not even remember what you watched, but you watched a whole bunch of clips and then you moved on. But who out there is going to be able to sell a ticket? Like you can get the views, but can you then fill a club?
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
that is going to be the thing that separates comedians from each other.
Yeah, I mean, the Hawk Tuah girl can't last forever.
Oh my gosh.
Her
I-
time's coming.
I had
Believe how-
I had a complete mental breakdown on the way home from me and Jacob did a comedy show Friday night, and I had a complete mental breakdown when Jacob told me she was going out on tour as a comedian. Like I just melted down as a human being.
Well, because if you're really in it for the stand-up, it's so hard, and it's such a hard job that it's really hard when you hear other people just walk into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I totally get that, because you see other people, you go like, wait, but your goal wasn't even stand-up.
Yeah, like has
And
she
now
ever
you're
even
doing-
been on a stage before? Has she ever written a joke?
Right.
I know.
Do you guys remember that Patton Oswalt bit about when he did that show for those drunk people at a casino, and he went on stage and they all just kept yelling at him, Ratatouille, and like all the movies that he's been in. And after 30 minutes, he just went, good night. And then he went to the club owner and they gave him a huge check. And like everyone outside was like, that's the best comedy show I've ever been to. I feel like that's what she's going to do. Everyone's just going to go spit on that thing. And she's going to go, yeah. And that's the whole thing.
I have not heard that story. That's crazy. What a weird life, huh? Because like I fell in love with stand-up. I really did. Like I went like, oh, this is what I've been missing. I like just want to do stand-up. I don't really like actively look for I mean, I have had other jobs, writing or hosting or things like that. But like when it comes down to it, I always say like, but what do I really want to do? I just want to do stand-up. And so it's hard when you're like, wait, but that wasn't even your goal. This is like the one thing I cherish.
Right.
Ah!
Yeah. I mean, just to be stopped on a street while you're in the middle of a weekend bender and you accidentally say something funny, and then now you need an entire management team.
What? Well,
It
the rest
could have
of
been
us
me.
are like schlepping to do the show for 18 people in the back of a, bar that is not conducive to stand-up comedy at all. And we're like, yeah, we're doing it.
Right. Your punchline gets interrupted by a pool table.
Yes.
Someone sinks an 8-ball and it ruins your jokes.
Like me and Jacob drove 3 hours to do comedy in a pizza parlor.
There you go.
Yeah,
You're living the dream.
We did do that. In a pizza parlor that was a queue and brew. So there were dozens of pool tables.
Yes.
Just dozens of them. I couldn't get a word out in edgewise.
Exactly. We've all had those shows, okay? We've all walked in and gone like, what is happening? But the thing I love about that is when you then hear stories from like huge comedians where they're like, yeah, I got booked and I had to do a show and they didn't even know who I was. And you're like, they didn't know who you were? Like, this is insane. You did a show for like a dinner where nobody turned around and even looked at you. So I love hearing those stories and going like, okay, this is just the life that we have. This is the stand-up life. Everybody has their own version of that experience,
But that's paying your dues, though. That's the whole point of paying dues. And then the Hawk Tuah girl is going to go sell out arenas because of one thing she said on the internet, and not had to like me and Jacob had a fight break out at one of our shows one night with
Multiple
some bikers.
shows.
Sure. Yes.
I've been in fights at shows.
Yeah, Jacob's been
I had to
in
defend
brawls.
my life. But I do have to give her a certain level of respect, though, honestly, because like it could have been so easy to go straight to OnlyFans, right? Like,
True. And said no.
yeah, and she said no. She could have gone straight there and maybe made more money doing that. And she was like, nah, I'm gonna, go ruin people's nights for an hour. I don't know.
I'm gonna go make as much money as I possibly can for as long as I can.
Right. Yeah. And she'll be on Cameo. She'll get a cameo.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He'll be spitting on that thing on Cameo for years to come.
Definitely.
If lightning ever strikes for me like that, I don't blame her. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth. Like, just get as much money as I can. You know, like I'll never say anything, you know, that weird to where like the entire internet will make a meme about me. But if I
Yeah.
do, I'll do the same thing.
Gotta run with it. You gotta run with it. You
Just
know,
take it and
you
run.
gotta take it and go. That's right.
Yeah, yep, you do. When life gives you lemons, you spit on that thing, as they say. I don't know what they say. But Jen, I want to bring the line of questioning back to you. So you're in New York. You do your first open or your first stand up set on The Daily Show and Friends. What happens after that? I mean, what happens in the grind in New York City? You know, I mean, how often are you getting up? How long does it take for you to, feel a sense of like getting anywhere almost?
That's a good question. So I think what happened was it was like I had that show and then I started hitting open mics as many as I could get to during the week. I was working full time. So I'm trying to work full time, but then also, I would try to get up several times a week, as much as I could. Um, and I was doing like open mics where you had to pay $5 to get any time
Oh
at
my
all.
gosh.
And, bringer shows. I did my share of those. I just did everything I could because I also, yes, I had the Daily Show and it was very helpful. I also went like, I need to go like do this. I need to go do the shows. No one's going to hand me anything and I shouldn't expect anybody to hand me anything. So I still did the bringer shows and the paying $5 to get on stage and all that stuff. And it was good. It was so good for me because they were hard shows. Like, you're doing shows at midnight off of Times Square for two people and they don't speak English. And you're like, all right, we're doing this. Let's have some fun. Okay. And they introduce you like, she's been on this and this and this. I'm like, I've literally done 1 hour combined of comedy. So I don't like all the open mics, put them together. It might have been an hour of time. I don't know. So like it's just this weird life you live trying to do stand up in New York. But then I started to get a little bit better and I was offered the opportunity to put together the Daily Show and Friends show. So I would like help organize it and then I would host it a lot of the time. So uh I got a lot of time on stage to do that, which was really cool. And I got to watch a lot of stand-ups and get feedback from them, which was super helpful.
Oh yeah.
And then so that was like a few months in, maybe a little more than a few months. Maybe it was like 6 months of just really like hustling hard to try to get a couple minutes of time, that was okay. Um I started putting that show together and then I decided I needed more stage time. So I went to like every bar in my neighborhood in New York and asked like, "Can I do a show here?" And like most of them were like, "No, get out." And then I found one bar that was like, "Sure, you can do a show here." So I did a show every Monday in the city. I think it was Monday nights, and I would like bring in as many people as I could. Um and then that show got a reputation because most of the crowd was like friends of mine that were from church. And so and like a lot of people knew I worked clean. And so it became this like clean, it wasn't officially a clean comedy show, but a lot of the comics went like, this is where I'm going to come work my clean comedy. And I was like, great. So I had people come and do clean comedy. So that was kind of a weird twist that just happened naturally. And then eventually that bar was like, okay, you guys are done. So, and then that was about the time I was getting ready to move from New York. I was getting married. I was engaged. So then I got married and we moved out to LA because I wanted to see what the scene was like in LA. Um, but it was like, that was a solid couple of years of just grind. It was like, you know, on a good night, I could get two shows in a night, which was really great because in New York that was possible because I think the most shows I had in a night, three, maybe you could get three shows in if you could find the right people to let you on their shows. Um, so I've just hustled. That's really what it was. I just had to like, okay, I'm just gonna insert myself in as many places and talk to people. I'm like very introverted. It's very difficult for me to be that person. but I felt like I gotta figure this out. So I worked and then eventually I moved to LA and kind of had to start over again because it was a completely different scene out there.
Yeah. And so how much were you getting up when you first moved to LA? Because I imagine, being in New York, it's like, my gosh, everything's so close to each other. In LA, you have to actually drive if you can get up multiple places in a night.
Yeah, I was not doing a lot of stand up, to be honest. I was not doing a ton, but by then I had headlined a club. Uh I had done some headlining a little bit here and there. And so I had enough material that I started to like try to get other gigs, like some private gigs and different things. So at that point, I wasn't getting up a lot in LA. I really never did. I did a few shows at the Ice House, a few shows at Flappers. That was the club I did most of my shows at because I lived really close to it. And then I started getting like more gigs that were taking me out of LA, which is then what sort of went like, why are we living here? I started having babies and I went like, why are we here? We should get a more stable life. And I'm also flying all the time. So then we moved out to Georgia. We live like 20 miles from the airport. And that's the best airport to live next to because I can just like zip to a show and be home as quickly as possible. So that's where we're at now. But LA was not great for stand up for me. I didn't feel like I
Yeah.
fit in. I didn't like it as much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, a lot of people are discovering that now too. You're like, LA is great if you're established maybe as a comedian already and you kind of want to get into TV and movies or whatever. But I feel like, and I hope you agree that, the South is kind of in a renaissance of comedy right now. I think like, especially here on the coast where me and Jason are, we're on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Mhm.
Just this whole coast right along here, right on the water, where you have like Orlando Improv, Miami Improv, and even up into Louisiana and Texas a little bit. Like, just there's just a whole strip right here where headlining comics can come right down the interstate and hit all these spots, and there's actually local talent popping up that can kind of meet everyone where they're at.
Yes. I think there's a lot more clubs opening. I've noticed. I feel like there's more clubs opening.
Mhm.
And I think that's exciting because it just means more opportunities for everybody who wants them. Um, and I think and maybe I'm wrong, but maybe you guys can let me know what you think of this. But maybe because of social media, there are more people who are willing to try going to a comedy club
Yeah.
because I think a lot of adults go like, but I don't know what happens at a comedy club. Like it seems like a scary place to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not scary, but like, what do I do? How do I go there? What happens there? And I
Right.
think there's so much to be seen on the internet that you go like, oh, I can do that. I can go show up there and whatever.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, I do feel like because of social media, a lot of audiences are like, how do I get involved in this show?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
and
there's
that's
like,
and that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
it would be nice, especially me and Jacob have been trying to get our own show we're doing here and have you bigger comedians coming down here because we're in between Mobile, New Orleans, and Mobile and Pensacola, where a lot of comedians are coming through, but they don't have anywhere to stop here. And the thing is I feel like you have to train people.
yeah,
You have to have a dedicated place for comedy because most of the time, like a lot of the places me and Jacob do, they don't know comedy's happening. They just know somebody's on stage talking at them, and while they're
yeah.
trying to have drinks or have a bachelorette party or a family funeral dinner. Like it's weird. Like half the time they don't even know.
That happened to me. I got in a
Yeah.
fight with somebody at a family funeral dinner.
It was.
Yeah, I was headlighting. Like my picture was on a giant billboard outside of this place. And I finally get on stage and start my set. And this family that's been causing problems all night, who are apparently mourning their dead brother, like just start popping off. And so I'm doing crowd work with them, making fun of them or whatever. and then some guy comes and throws water in my face, and then we just start punching each other.
What? Man, that is a lot to take in. Okay.
I was so upset.
Hey, how did you cross the line? You're like, hey, you can make fun of us that way.
Well, so there was it was like an open mic before, right? So I was like the featured headliner of the
Yeah.
mic. I was doing 30 to close it out, and a micer had gone up before who was a black man, and the grandma of this family just started being really racist to him. So when I got up there, I was just full on letting them have it. And I may have talked about having sexual relations with their grandma, and I'm not condoning doing that, but that will get you into a fist fight.
Don't, don't say those things. This is just too much for me.
But look, I mean, in my head, I'm like, I'm not thinking about these people's point of view. I don't know what's going on in their lives. I'm just like, that lady's racist. I'm gonna say something horrible to her now, and then yeah, instead of doing 30 minutes, I did 2 minutes in a fist fight.
Gosh. But you did all right.
Yeah, I bombed worse.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
It would have been worse if they let me do the whole 30.
But like I was saying, like it would be better if we had actual comedy clubs around here, because most people don't know how to act when there is an actual show going on, because we do have actual shows around here, and when we're on stage, people are acting like they're part of the show, and it's like, no, you sit there and be quiet and listen
Right.
to me, because I have a microphone.
I'm in charge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. That is hard. But you hope that all these clubs, hopefully more and more clubs will open up so that people do have a place to go for entertainment and a place for you guys to be, because yeah, a good comedy club is so awesome.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
mean, we
great.
have casinos here, and how we don't have like just a comedy club inside
Right.
one of the casinos is beyond me, because we do have the bigger comedians that come down through here. We have big
Yeah.
comedians all the time, but we don't have like a smaller club, like just a comedy club in
Mhm.
one of the casinos to just go do comedy. And that
Sounds
makes
like you
so
guys
much
have
sense to me. So I'm
sounds
sorry, I
like
didn't mean to cut you off there. What were you saying?
Oh
You
no, I
did it
said
again, Jason. Shut
I'm
up.
trying. I'm
okay,
trying.
I step on. I'm trying not to as well, but I know I do it. I'm just saying, sounds like you guys have some work to do. Okay, you got to get a place going. You got to get a comedy club set up. I'll come. It'll be great. We'll have a great show.
I
We
like
need
that
to get an
idea.
angel investor. We need to, if you have any rich friends,
Yeah.
tell them we have ideas.
Oh yeah, if I have any rich friends, I'm gonna send them your way, not mine. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you wanted to hog all your rich friends.
But we do need to start
yeah.
wrapping this thing up. We're getting up to the hour mark.
Oh boy.
The
So why
old
don't-
hour. Yeah, so thank you so much for being here, Jenna. This was a fantastic conversation. I hope you had fun. Please tell everyone where they can find you online, what projects you want to send them to, and where they can buy tickets to see you live.
That's right. All right. This is the part I'm always the worst at. And my husband's always like, get it together, woman. Tell everybody what's going on. So follow me on social media. My name is Jenna Kim Jones. That's where you'll find me, at Jenna Kim Jones. And if you go to my website, jennakimjones.com, you'll see all my upcoming shows. We're going to be adding more soon. But you guys are right. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff in the South for a little bit here, North Carolina, Asheville, Savannah, Georgia, Greensboro, North Carolina, Chattanooga. I'll be up in Ohio in October. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'm going to be in Chattanooga twice, actually, this year. So lots of fun happening there. So please come out and see me, get tickets to the show, follow me on social media. And then I also have a podcast. It's called Couple Friends Podcast. It's where my husband and I become your favorite couple friend. So if you're looking for some cool kids to hang out with that you don't actually have to hang out with, and we promise we won't ask you to babysit our kids, hey, we're your friends. So check it out, couplefriendspodcast.com.
Well, Jacob, what do you got going on before we get out of here?
Man, we just wrapped up a fantastic show over in Baton Rouge at the Stone versus Drunk versus Sober showcase. Jason and his team won. Jason, team sober, beat him out, man.
Yeah.
Beat me for once in his life. It's the last time it'll ever happen. I hate to break it to you. So he gets to go back to Rally Cap in Baton Rouge and do a featured set on that next one. But you guys can sign up to our Patreon right now at patreon.com/OM podcast to see the forthcoming vlog video that we actually cut together from our journey in Baton Rouge. And you will get to see Jason's winning 10 minutes and my losing 10 minutes. So that's 20 minutes of comedy there, and 10 minutes of it's good. So go over to Patreon and give us $1 a month to become a patron.
And speaking of which, it's August 16th. I'll be back in Baton Rouge for Stone vs. Drunk vs. Sober at Rally Cap Brewing for Lafayette Comedy. So we'll keep you posted right here on the show for tickets and all that other good stuff. So I think that's going to do it for this week. Is that it, Jacob? Is that everything?
Yeah.
All right.
Daddy.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you for being
so
here.
much.
If you want to email us at OpenMicersPodcast@gmail.com. We're at OpenMicers.com and also Linktree/OpenMicersPodcast. Takes you everywhere you need to go. And don't forget, BRezCoffeeCode.com. Use the code OMPodcast for checkout for 10% off your order. We love all of you, and we'll see you right here, right next week. And thank you all for watching on YouTube, and we'll see you all next week.